When we think about the holiday season, November and December, the images that pop into our heads are usually about warmth, connection, comfort. But today, we're going to take a really deep and I think necessary look at an intense emotional paradox. It's the specific, quiet, and often overwhelming struggle faced by heterosexual men who cross-dress during this time of, well, mandated togetherness.
That's such a good way to put it, mandated togetherness.
It is, isn't it? We've compiled sources that really highlight how the festive season, with its intense focus on tradition and family, actually amplifies feelings of secrecy, longing, and disconnection for this specific group.
Yeah.
It's a hidden emotional battle that unfolds quietly in living rooms all over the world, right under the twinkling lights.
That's absolutely right. And our mission in this deep dive is to really unpack why this period becomes such an emotional crucible. We're analyzing how the relentless social pace of November and December just amplifies these critical issues of identity and privacy.
Right.
The central struggle here is this overwhelming pressure to perform a socially acceptable version of masculinity, the one everyone assumes you are.
And that pressure gets heavier when everyone's watching.
Exponentially heavier. We really want to shed some light on an internal experience that is almost universally absent from holiday discussions.
Okay, so let's unpack this weight of tradition first, because that feels like where the pressure really starts. The sources describe December not just as a month, but as a cultural performance.
Yes.
And we all feel that, right? We go back to our childhood homes and boom, we just slip into these familiar roles we've played for decades. It feels comfortable on the surface, but it's so restrictive.
It's the reinforcement of unspoken scripts.
Exactly. Those big family gatherings, the sources note, they just reinforce conventional gendered expectations, often through really simple physical tasks.
Okay, what kind of specific examples are we talking about? Well, think about the actions that are typically, delegated to men during the holidays. These aren't malicious requests, but they physically reinforce that traditional masculine identity.
Like what, though?
We're talking about being relied upon to carry the heaviest box of decorations up from the basement.
Okay.
Or carving the turkey with authority at the dinner table, struggling to open a stubborn jar that no one else can manage. Or, and this is a big one, the public performance of hanging the outdoor lights in the cold.
Right. The very visible tasks.
Exactly. Even in a completely loving, accepting family, these actions anchor the person firmly in a very specific, expected masculine role. It leaves zero room for nuance.
So when you talk about those tasks, carving the turkey, putting up lights, are the sources saying families do this intentionally to reinforce those roles, or is it more of an unconscious thing?
Oh, it's the latter, and that's what makes the pressure so insidious. It's an unconscious side effect of tradition that just creates this cognitive barrier.
And the emotional result?
The emotional result is that the contrast between the internal feminine side, the soft, expressive self, and that external, expected masculine role becomes, as one source says, sharper than ever. It's a battle of texture, too.
Yeah.
The sources suggest having to wear, heavy wool suits or uncomfortable blazers when female attendees are celebrating in shimmering fabrics, silks, and soft textures. The authentic self, the one that often brings peace, is then deliberately set aside just to fit this assumed non-negotiable holiday role.
This is where it gets really insightful, a point I think is often missed. The overwhelming internal cost. We're talking about the simple but overwhelming lack of opportunity for self-expression. And just how devastating that lack of an outlet can be. It's not just sacrificing a hobby, it's deeper.
That's the critical distinction.
Yeah.
We have to look at the practical reality of why privacy simply evaporates in December. The whole rhythm of daily life is disrupted.
Right.
If dressing is usually only possible when a partner's at work or the kids are at school, well, those windows slam shut. Homes become crowded, extended family take the guest rooms, siblings fly in, partners take vacation days.
So all that quiet time just vanishes.
It just disappears. All those moments of quiet solitude, the time needed for dressing, for makeup, for just simple contemplation, even something as simple as a shared laundry hamper or a shared bathroom suddenly becomes a risk.
That lack of opportunity sounds, just devastating. Can the sources give us a clear sense of what exactly is lost beyond just the physical act of dressing?
They absolutely do. And what's fascinating here is the emotional significance. For many crossdressers, feminine presentation isn't purely aesthetic. It's a vital form of emotional regulation.
An emotional regulation tool.
It's an essential coping mechanism. It provides calm, it reduces stress, it grounds their confidence. So when that outlet is just violently removed for weeks, we see what the research calls emotional restlessness.
And what does that look like?
It manifests as internal tension, irritability, or just a profound sense of distance from oneself. It's described not as general sadness, but, and this is powerful, as being like mourning, a quiet grief for the loss of an essential part of the self. It feels like an existential theft.
That puts the lack of privacy into such stark perspective. It's not just an inconvenience, it's stripping away an essential mechanism for emotional balance.
Exactly. When you are forced to be physically uncomfortable in your clothes and emotionally uncomfortable in your role, that tension has nowhere to go but inward. And that internal pressure builds, often leading to unexplained moodiness that a partner or family might notice, which just further isolates the crossdresser who can't explain why.
Okay, let's shift to social events, the holiday parties,
Yeah.
New Year's. The sources note this incredible emotional complexity here because, paradoxically, this is the one time of year when femininity is so visible and celebrated.
Right. Shimmering stockings, glamorous dresses, intricate hairstyles, makeup, it's everywhere.
So what does that do?
It creates this unique and really confusing emotional mix. For the crossdresser, witnessing this is described as thrilling to witness but painful in equal measure.
Thrilling but painful.
Yes, there's genuine joy in seeing beauty and fashion expressed so freely. Admiring how a velvet dress catches the light or the details in a festive manicure. They are appreciative observers. But that appreciation is immediately followed by this intense longing.
To participate.
A yearning to participate, to wear those fabrics, to feel that expression. This leads to a confusing blend of emotions. Profound appreciation, deep sadness, and often a sense of guilt for even having that desire. The feminine self feels so present in the atmosphere, yet is forcibly invisible in their own experience.
And that tension gets physically captured in holiday photos, right?
Oh, absolutely. When the crossdresser shows up in that expected masculinity, the blazer, the ugly sweater, those images become snapshots of a version of yourself that isn't the whole truth. They're just markers of a required public performance.
And then there's the shopping. The shopping season must add another layer of exhaustion.
A huge layer. The crowds in December transform browsing women's aisles into a serious minefield. There's intense fear of being recognized by coworkers, neighbors, anyone. So they just avoid places where they might feel that pull.
Even when they're shopping with the best intentions, buying gifts for others.
Yes. The research details this so vividly. When buying a sophisticated perfume or a shade of lipstick or a soft cashmere sweater for a partner, the sources note the crossdresser experiences a distinct pang of longing.
It's not jealousy, though.
No, not jealousy of the recipient. It's brushing up against something meaningful, a color, a scent, a texture that they desperately wish they could integrate into their own identity but can't. It's a constant low-grade reminder of their suppression.
And of course, online shopping isn't safe either.
The privacy for that just vanishes. Packages arrive on shared porches, family members are home to see deliveries, and financial statements are often looked at more closely during the high-spending gift season. The entire external world is actively working against them.
Let's shift our focus to relationship dynamics because that's so central to the holidays. Let's start with those in romantic partnerships. The increased togetherness, it seems like it would strain that privacy even more.
It absolutely limits the essential breathing room required for expression.
Yeah.
And this raises a critical point. The impact of that suppressed identity on intimacy.
How so?
Well, the sources indicate that the difficulty of feeling feminine without the chance to embody it, it affects mood, confidence, and, as a result, intimacy. The crossdresser often becomes emotionally distant or just feels slightly off, and the partner senses this withdrawal without knowing the real cause.
So instead of trying to negotiate for space and maybe starting a fight during a high-stakes family time, they just
bottle it up entirely. Precisely. They avoid the emotional negotiation, fearing conflict or judgment when the expectation is all about cheerfulness and closeness. The path of least resistance becomes suppression, which only increases that internal restlessness we talked about.
creating a vicious cycle.
A self-reinforcing cycle of tension within the partnership.
Yes. And then you contrast that with the experience of single crossdressers. The season inherently amplifies couples and relationships.
For the single crossdresser, this heightens the longing on two fronts. First, just the general longing for a partner. But second, and maybe more intensely, this specific longing for a partner who not only understands, but actively supports and even celebrates this part of them.
So the loneliness gets tied directly to their identity struggle.
Exactly. And while online communities offer these vital safe spaces to talk, they can also inadvertently deepen that sense of longing and envy.
Oh.
By seeing peers whose partners enthusiastically help them with makeup or choose a holiday dress with them, it makes the lack of that support in their own life heartbreakingly vivid. It transforms a theoretical longing into a painful comparative reality.
So if we connect all these threads, the heaviest burden seems to be what the sources call the sheer effort of maintaining secrecy through constant emotional vigilance. That sounds exhausting in a way most of us can't even imagine.
It is profoundly tiring. It's like running a continuous low-level surveillance operation on yourself. That vigilance is constant internal monitoring, watching your behavior, making sure no verbal slip-ups happen, dressing in physically uncomfortable clothes that reinforce masculinity, and perpetually worrying about feminine items like shaved body hair or packed-away clothing being accidentally discovered.
It must feel surreal.
The sources say it feels strange, even surreal, to be surrounded by loving family while maintaining this perfect facade. To maintain that high-stakes performance during the most social month of the year is, by description, profoundly tiring. It leads to a burnout that often only really surfaces in January.
And then there's the mirror effect, which I find fascinating. The constant presence of reflections, store windows, glossy party venues, all those holiday photos, that has to intensify the emotional disconnect.
It absolutely does. And this is where the distress the sources refer to as dysphoria can be really amplified.
Explain that a bit more.
Dysphoria, in this context, is that deep sense of distress when your external reflection doesn't match your internal sense of self. The masculine reflection reminds them of everything they're currently unable to express. They look in the mirror and see the sharp jawline or the plain clothes, and they feel a pang of sadness. Not because the masculine self is rejected, but because the feminine self, the part that feels soft or expressive or at peace, is just conspicuously absent.
Despite all this profound emotional strain, the sources also point to remarkable resilience. How do crossdressers navigate this? What are the coping mechanisms?
The focus shifts entirely inward, toward what they call tiny acts of self-expression that no one else notices.
Psychological anchors.
That's a great term for it.
Yeah.
They include subtle things, like wearing a heavily scented feminine lotion into their masculine clothes, or tucking a piece of cherished jewelry into a pocket, or privately journaling about their feelings. These small acts maintain a crucial emotional connection to their identity.
I see. And what about looking forward?
They engage in proactive future planning. A really common coping mechanism is planning a private return-to-self day or weekend right away in January. Just having that scheduled moment where they can dress freely again, a clear end date to the suppression, it helps ease the tension of December.
So the core message of strength, even in suppression, is self-compassion, recognizing that these feelings are valid, that the struggle is real.
Yes, that self-recognition is key to softening the emotional edges of the season. And the sources note the tremendous relief that comes after the holidays. As the social pressure lifts and routines return, there's a powerful clarity that the suppressed identity deserves care and intention.
So December's hardship actually proves just how essential that identity is.
Vividly, yes.
It's a struggle happening globally, which illuminates the commonality of this hidden identity.
And here is the final provocative thought for you to consider, based on the material we've looked at. The sources suggest that when external pressures force someone to suppress an essential part of their identity for a defined period, the realization of how important that identity truly is becomes more vivid and compelling than ever before. The tension of December ultimately illuminates the fundamental human need for authenticity, making the drive for self-acceptance in the new year far, far stronger.